honestly, on a personal note, Jess is just one of the nicest dudes that I've ever talked to. And he's always serving, he's always adding value, and he's just a great guy. So I'm really excited to hear from him. So I'll let you take it away, buddy.
All right. Well, Matt, that was probably one of the nicest introductions I've ever received. So I appreciate that. Um, I want to start off by saying I look up to a lot of people on this call. And when Matt texted me saying, "Hey, could you speak to us?" I was like, "This is awesome." But I'll be honest, I was intimidated. What value can I bring this group? I think, and I recognize almost everybody on this call, Hall of Famers, 3, 4 times over, millions upon millions of dollars in sales. And, I said to Matt, you might remember, I said, like, I'm just going to there's nothing amazing that I'm doing. I'm just doing the things that we've been taught. And he said, that's maybe just exactly what some of you need to hear. So I'm here to remind and reinforce maybe the simplicity of what we do. A lot of things I'm going to share today, you've most likely heard before, but what I hope is maybe I can say it in a way that changes your mentality on what I'm saying, offers you a different perspective, or it just kind of helps you get back to some simple basics. My goal is that, just I can remind you that these basics work. And again, maybe we can do them at a higher level, but let's keep things simple. Let's not overcomplicate it. I think Matt asked me to speak to this group because over the last 4 months, I've had a few 20K weeks. I've had a 30K week. I'm guessing he saw that. And, I think it's because for me personally, I've come to the realization that the most important thing we can do with our clients is build as much emotional leverage and emotional value we can as in Cutco as possible. Logically, it makes sense to buy Cutco. It's simple, American made, it's the best of its kind, it's not overpriced, right? But if people bought Cutco based on logic alone, if we didn't need emotion, we'd be $1 billion company. But we're not there yet, right? Because we need that emotional impact. So there's really 3 main things I'm going to talk about. There's first section of my talk is going to be some simple things that you probably are already doing. Maybe you can do them differently, or you can get them back into your interactions. I'm going to talk about some price positioning, and I'll give a few closing tips. So I want to start off with the simple stuff. And this is where maybe I know I've had to do it. You can leave your ego behind when it comes to selling Cutco. I'm a huge proponent of cutting food. And this is my thought, but Cutco is better at cutting than we are at talking, explaining, and selling. Cutco's better at cutting than we are at selling it. I've made the mistake of thinking I'm too good for it. And I understand, not every event lets you cut food because it's a no weapons event, right? You can't have the knives out. And I'm not saying you need to cut with every single knife. And I've heard the arguments against cutting food, right? I think the main one is that, well, people know it's going to cut well. Why else would we be there if the knife didn't cut well? And I understand that, but that's the logical aspect of it. Let's talk about the emotional idea of cutting food. What we're trying to get them to do is to feel something. We've all heard the saying, physicality informs your mentality. So when they have that physical feeling of fighting with a piece of food, and then they use a cheese knife to cut a potato, and it's 10 times easier, that physical reaction leads to an emotional reaction. And then we can use that to build, right? I think it's especially important for Cutco owners, if not more important than new customers. Because new customers, we're of course going to cut the leather if we can. If we can't, we're going to cut the penny, right? And again, with new customers, they probably don't have that great knives, so they know it's going to be 10 times better than what they have. But with a Cutco owner, Cutco owners can be a little cocky because they've had their knives for a long time. They already have amazing knives. They have their galley set, which they think is perfect for them. When in reality, they don't even have like any of the best knives. So we need to engage them emotionally with having them cut with something and comparing what they have to what they could have. And what I like to do with cutting the food is I try to reference that feeling as much as possible as I continue going through the package that I'm showing. So I'll start using imagine win statements. If it's a new customer, imagine win everything you use in your kitchen works as well as that cheese knife worked on that potato. You know, imagine if like you didn't have to fight with your food anymore. So cutting food, again, I just believe that it will save people time. Some people argue that it takes more time. I actually think it saves you time because you're engaging them emotionally. You can use that emotion to ride through the presentation that you're doing. And then at the end, you're going to have less objections. So spend time in the beginning to save you time on the end. Another thing that I do that I think is simple is using videos to sell Cutco. Again, Cutco works better than we do. It's better than us at our jobs. So why not leverage that? I don't think you need to show a video for every single knife. But what I think it does, besides the fact that it shows them Cutco working well, what it also does is it builds credibility and trust in the things you're going to say about pieces that they're not going to cut with or see a video on. And some people will say, well, that's going to take more time. But I can explain a boning knife as I show a boning knife video. And if a customer hears me saying things and then they're watching it happen live on my phone screen, aren't they more likely to believe that when I talk about the veggie knife or the brisket knife later and I'm not showing a video, that what I'm saying is the truth? Because they saw me match up my words with a video already once. So yes, they get to see a knife in action. You're also piquing their interest emotionally because they get to like, you can maybe not get the same feeling as them actually cutting with it, but they still like respond emotionally. But then now when I say, oh, by the way, like you saw that raw meats knife, the way this like hardy slicer works on heavy duty stuff, it's the same thing. It's the same feeling. There's some trust and credibility there because they saw it live and happen. And then another thing I think that's simple is just trying to incorporate some vivid imagery into your customer's mind. And I like to do that with emotionally impactful words like fight and frustrate. And this is the chance for all of you, amazing salespeople, to use your voice, like your tone and inflection, to influence your customers' emotions. So if I'm talking about something like fighting with a tomato, I'm going to say it with that inflection. I'm going to make the silly, like frustrated face. I'm saying you're going to have to fight with it until you grab this Cutco knife and it's real smooth and easy. And maybe I'm just buying into my own ego a little bit there with thinking that my voice has that much of an impact. But I do believe like when it goes from like that frustrated, angry voice to like that calm, relaxed, smooth, and easy voice, there's a little bit of an impact there that makes them feel better. And you'll know you've done a really good job with emotionally impacting them when they start using your language. And I noticed this on a service call the other day, you know, because I've been thinking about giving this message. But I use the words like fighting with the food. And 10 minutes later, Stacy said, like, yeah, I noticed I have to like fight with like the squash. And I was like, yes, I got her. Right. She's with me now because she's using my language. So some simple things. I really believe in cutting food. I think you should use videos. You know, like Matt said, I've coached with Jason for a while, so you can look up his videos on YouTube. The two I use are his raw meats video and then the video for the melon knife. I don't think you need to do more than that. You can if you want. He's got some few other ones. Those are the two I use. And what I like to do is I cut with a cheese knife, I show the raw meats knife, I show the melon knife video, and I've just impacted them so much emotionally that then I can like just run with that for the next 3 to 4 pieces I'm going to show. And that's mainly with an upgrade, but you can do it with new customers as well too. So I think that's some simple stuff. What I want to talk about next is price point selling. Price point selling, and it's very similar to concept selling. But I think, and this is something I've experienced, maybe you've experienced it yourself as well too, but we do such a good job of selling people on a concept without confirming their price comfort. And they don't get a package because they love the concept, but we never figured out if that's actually a price that's good for them. So of course, we always want to start high and show, you know, our complete upgrades first. We want to show the ultimate set with steak knives first. And then after you've gotten their response, whether, you know, if it's not a yes, I think when we show the next option, it's important to confirm that that's a good price because it's going to save you time. So you already know that the most expensive thing is not a price they're comfortable with. The next option you show them before you really dive into like the ins and outs of what comes in that set and what they can do with it, I think it's important to say, give them a quick explanation of what it is, like your 30-second elevator pitch on it, and say, by the way, if this was perfect, had everything in it that you wanted, nothing in it that you didn't, is like designed for you, would this number maybe be okay in the budget for the next couple of months? They give you a hard yes, dive in. They give you a soft yes, which is like the, yeah, maybe, go for it. But if they give you like the, I don't know, we maybe could, I probably won't spend too much time with them, especially if it's in a higher paced environment like a event, when there's a lot of people around. I don't want to spend too much time if I'm unsure. I want to go on something that I know like I can close, because once I have their credit card, I could probably upserve them if it's something maybe that I was unsure about. So I always like to make sure they're even remotely comfortable with a price before I go through an option. And I think it's important because this gets you on their side. It makes them feel better. Chelsea actually gave a message to our coaching group last week, and she said something, people love to buy, but they hate being sold to. And that's how you use the price, and to not sell to them, but to help them buy. And this is where I really think special sheets are important. So what I wrote down, special sheets are the good word of the Lord, and we're just the messengers. Special sheets are why you're at an event. And what I mean by that is like, Cutco let me do these specials because I said I would do this event. And I also think it's important that everything you sell can be price positioned off of a special sheet, even a 5-piece special. And I'll get into the details on that. What I mean is, say somebody, you've dropped all the way down to a 5-piece special. I'm going to keep that builder upgrade special sheet in front of them and explain how they're basically getting that $1,000 package for the $500-600, but they're not getting the things they don't want. Because if they don't get a builder upgrade, they're probably not too concerned about the block. They maybe don't care as much about the table knives. So I'll say, you're basically getting this, but you're not paying for the things you don't want, and you're just getting it for this price. And then I'm showing them a price on my phone, right? It's the $500, 600, maybe I discount a little bit to around 400 on their 5-piece special. But the entire time, what they're seeing is, oh, I'm getting this $1,000 package for $500, but I'm not getting the extra things I don't want. So it's just keeping a price in front of them that they're uncomfortable with and showing them a better price for something that's basically the same thing. I also think what's great about special sheets is they can allow you to be creative by using a price point. So say you show them a special, they're comfortable with the price, but they don't exactly want what's in it. Say it's a builder upgrade, 5 knives, a block, 2 table knives, but they don't want to go all the way up to an ultimate block. They've kind of just feel like they're never ever going to fill that up. Cool, that's fine, but like this price would work if it was perfect, right? So yeah, but like I don't want that. Cool, no worries. What's really cool that Cutco lets me do, and what's unique is like, if you like this price, and it's like, I can get you exactly what you want for it. So as an example, I just did a service call. I mentioned Stacy before, Stacy and Alex. They wanted an upgrade, but they weren't concerned at all about table knives yet. So I showed them I have a special sheet that's like a signature to ultimate upgrade, where they get 6 knives, ultimate block, and 2 table knives and cutting boards. It's $13.48 is the price on that. And they said, well, we don't want the table knives yet. Cool. Why would you want just 2 anyway when you don't have any? So what I offered was like, I'm actually gonna be able to put in another knife for you that you want from that big complete upgrade. So you're basically gonna get like everything you want from the $1,900 upgrade, but it's only gonna be this, because you're probably not gonna use those other 2 knives right away that comes in the upgrade anyway. We've already kind of confirmed that they are comfortable with that price point. So what you do is you just get creative and just keep working off the special sheets. I think it provides, again, credibility and trust. Instead of you just like, oh yeah, you want this list of things and showing a price, they feel like they can work with that more, or they feel like there's more flexibility, which I think being flexible is good, but be flexible within a price point that Cutco's letting you offer. Another example I just have of when I've done that before is, I had 2 sisters at a service event. One wanted to upgrade, one just wanted a few more knives. She didn't want a bigger block, but they ended up getting an ultimate upgrade price point, 1964 price, because the one sister wanted a signature block and more knives and some more table knives. The other sister just wanted a few knives. cool, I can get you the 4 knives you need for your signature set. I can get you the block. I can get you the 5 knives you want, but we'll package it all together. That way, neither of you pay a la carte pricing. Probably wouldn't have gotten, the 1600 CPO I got out of them if I just offered like, well, you can get your order, you can get your order. I just confirmed that each of them would be comfortable splitting up that payment plan on the ultimate upgrade. So using special sheets to be creative, working within price points. So at this point, we've engaged them emotionally. We've talked about pricing. Then we move into the closing, right? What I think I've done at a higher level so far this year that's helped me, have the sales I've had is really come down to framing and summarizing. So framing's in the beginning, right? ABC, always be closing. So one of the first things you learn, Brian, I'm sure you're teaching that all the time and you're training for your new reps, right? I do think, with talking to some other CSPs, some verbiage I found with framing that works especially well in service events and service calls is explaining why we're there to set the tone for why I'll be able to offer the specials that I'm about to show them. So this is what I say after I've gone over the sharpening guarantee, or while I'm going over the sharpening guarantee. So the second part of the guarantee is Cutco's guarantee says that you can always send it back to the factory to get it sharpened and polished for free. That's Cutco's guarantee. You just got to pay the postman to get it there and get it home. Now, Tommy, Janet, what we found is that most people just weren't doing that. So us reps, we volunteered to host these kind of events so people can take advantage of the guarantee. But we volunteered to do that if Cutco would let us offer certain packages, specials, and offers that you can't find anywhere else. That way, for those that want to add on, it's a win-win for both of us. So it's referencing that the guarantee says there's no guarantee that a rep will sharpen your knives for free. It's that they can send them back. But we volunteered to do it if Cutco would let us offer things that they can't find anywhere else. That way it's a win-win. And I think what I've noticed is this helps my customers understand that the reason I'm sharpening their knives is because, yes, like I want them to get sharper, but I also want to sell them more. I'm not hiding the fact that I'm here to sell, but it does it in a way that piques their interest because now they're being told that they can get offers, specials, and packages they won't find anywhere else without threatening them. Because I think customers can feel threatened when you offer them a free service, then you turn it into a sales appointment. I've never used that at a new event, that kind of verbiage. I actually am working an event this weekend. It's an arts festival, and I'm going to try it. I'm just going to let people know, hey, like for the first 50 years of Cutco, we sold Cutco by like in-home stuff, but not everybody wanted a stranger to come over. Not a lot of people like being referred to buying something. So us reps volunteered to like set up booths at these kind of events if Cutco would let us offer specials and packages that you won't find anywhere else. So I believe it's going to create more urgency, which it already does on service calls and service events, but I think it will create more urgency at the event that I'm going to be working at. So I'm going to try it this weekend. We'll see how it works out. So that's the framing that I like to do. And then moving into summarizing, the reassurance close from Curtis is one of the best things that's ever happened to us reps. Thank you, Curtis Jakes, for giving that to us. But what that does is that's mainly closing them on the concept and the idea of buying Cutco. What I didn't do for the longest time and what I'm trying to get better at continuing to do so is reassuring and close on what they're actually getting, what the package is, reminding them why this is the package they chose. So, with your new customers, I would reinforce the concept of why they're getting it and reminding them again, going back to that emotional leverage, reminding them of the feeling they had when they cut the leather, using an imagine win statement there. So remember, you're getting something that's American made, forever guaranteed. So you're supporting American made workers, and like the set you chose, when you cut that leather is awesome. Just imagine once you have this in your house in a couple of weeks, how good it's going to feel that your entire set works that way. And you're going to have this forever. Then, famous let go, moving into, I'm going to be your guy. I'm going to make sure you get the best use out of all of your products. I'm going to service everything you have for you, right? But I do make sure I remind them of that feeling in the beginning. as I'm showing them the package that they're getting, I have their credit card at this point, or I'm about to get their credit card. With past customers, something I've found is really powerful, like especially when I'm selling an upgrade. Uh, it's using the justification for the last piece I showed as the reason as to why people get the package that I'm about to then close them on. So when I show an ultimate upgrade, the last piece I show is a Santoku trimmer. And what I like to say about the Santoku trimmer is that it's a nice everyday utility knife. It's in that medium to small size range, which like those are the ones you use all the time, right? Yeah. So, and if you notice, like that's actually why we created a package around these knives here. If you notice, most of them are in the medium to small size range. And that's why people ask us to make them. Those are the ones they use the most. And once we found is once people get this package, they use these more than their originals. Because the Santoku trimmer is really easy to sell and really easy for a customer to understand and relate to. A salmon knife, not so much. A hardy slicer, maybe not as much, right? Or a cleaver, not as much, right? But if I can use that Santoku trimmer, leverage their understanding of that to understand everything else in the package, then there's less questions about, well, what am I going to do with this? What am I going to do with that? Because I just explained that the reason why they're going to use this so much is the same reason they're going to use everything else in that upgrade. And then it's just going into, closing on the price, explaining how we give them a credit, gets it at a bundle price, split it up over the easy pay, closing as normal. But I like to justify the concept behind the package by using the uses or like the justification of the last piece I showed them, because it's easy to tie it in that way. A couple final tips I just have on closing. These are a little bit more abstract and they're a little more random, but I remember Brandon Brown said this at Net in 2017. He said, don't ask for the order until you know what they're going to say. And I remember being so frustrated when he said that because I had no clue what he meant. It was so confusing to me. I at first thought he meant like, don't ask until you know they're going to say yes, which, I mean, if I don't know they're going to say yes, does that mean I just never ask? That doesn't sound like a good thing to do. But it's taken me, I guess, almost 4 years now to realize that what he was really saying, or at least what I've taken from it at this point is don't ask until you know what they're going to say, no matter it's yes or no. The idea is that it informs how you ask them. So I'm not going to make any decisions for my customers, but if I know I just showed them an ultimate set, or I just know if I just showed them an ultimate upgrade and they're just not feeling it, they don't want it, I'm going to ask in a way that's like, kind of like, hey, like, so yeah, that's that complete upgrade. Do you think you can maybe fit that in your budget right now? Like, what do we think? Versus saying, yeah. So if I know they're going to say yes, I'm going to confidently say, cool. Do you know which card you want to use? If I think they're going to say no, I'm going to say, what do you think? And I'm going to get them to air out their grievances, their objections, without it becoming like this uphill battle where I say, what do you want to get it? And they say no, or we want to think about it, right? If I say, what do you think? It's not really an objection. We're just like talking at that point. We're just humans having a conversation. I never want to fight uphill with my customers. So that what do you think question, do you have any questions for me, has been really powerful because it gets them to give the objection without them feeling like they're saying no to me. Because I know the argument is that, well, we got to get a no out of the way sometimes to get to a yes, which sure, fair, it's true to an extent, but also it can be hard with certain people to come back from no. Because once they say no, they kind of start to close up and it's hard to open them back up. So I'd rather just like get their questions out, handle their questions, and either like stay at that set or just be like, oh, use their objection as the reason why the next package I'm going to show them is perfect for them. And the last tip I have for you guys, not everything your customer says warrants a response. And I know that might sound like I can be kind of rude where I'm not responding to something they said, but I'm going to repeat myself. Not everything they say warrants a response. And sometimes when you acknowledge something they're saying, it becomes a bigger problem than it actually is. And this is the situation when you're closing and they're thinking out loud. And they're saying things like, whew, $300 a month, that's like a car payment. Like if you feed into that, like, oh, it's only 5 months though, it's not for 60 months. Like then it's like, you're nervous about them doing it, where if like you just respond, or even just like a confident, like, yeah, it is. It's not a big deal, right? Also understand that sometimes people like when they're doing these things, they're just complaining to complain. It doesn't mean they don't want it. Um, my brother taught me this, and I realized like maybe it's because he does it, but I do it. Every time I buy something, I complain. I don't because spending money's can be frustrating. We don't want to do it, right? I did it when I bought my car back in March. I just bought one of those purple mattresses, which, by the way, guys, if you need a new mattress, get a purple mattress. They're awesome. Um, but yeah, the salesman said to me, he's like, "Yeah, like the what's it called? The thing the bed sits on. I'm drawing a blank on it, but he's like, "Yeah, that's like an extra $400." I was like, "What, really?" And he didn't say anything. He's like, "Yeah." And like, if he would have been like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yes, thank you, Rob. It's the box spring, the frame, yeah." Um, hey, he's like, "Yeah, it's like $400. It matches." I'm like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah." No response. Didn't make it a big deal. Didn't try to sell me on how good it was. Just yeah. And I was like, "Man, all right, sure." And a lot of times your customers are doing the same thing. How much is that block? It's $3.95. But when you get in the package, you don't spend that much. Man, that's expensive. Yeah. And just roll with it. Now, if they repeat something more than, if they say it twice, you can maybe try to ignore it again. If they say it a third time, yeah, acknowledge it. Don't make them feel unheard. But just understand that when it comes to like the dance at the end, the closing, a lot of times they're just trying to air out their feelings. They're just trying to say it out loud. They're just thinking out loud. And yes, that's what I have for you. If there's really one thing that I hope you've gotten from everything I've talked about today, is it really comes back to using the emotional leverage in the beginning and just running with that all the way through the close. Because, like I said at the top of the talk, logically, if people bought Cutco only on logic, we'd sell a lot more Cutco. But we need that emotional impact, right? And when we price position, their emotion is going to go down a little bit because they don't love the price of it. But if we can get their emotion as high as possible before pricing, it's a little bit easier. And then if we can wrap up with some emotion again at the end when we close, mixed with some logic, that's how we keep the orders higher. Again, really grateful that I got asked to speak on this call. Thank you, you guys. I hope you got a couple good things out of there.
That's money. There's so many good things in there. A quick question: do you have time for just a minute of Q&A?
Yeah, I got time.
Perfect. Guys, if you have any questions, Anthony just popped up and said he did. I can spotlight you and you can ask your question. But Anthony, why don't you go first, sir?
Cool. Yeah. Hey, Jess. Good to see you again. Wanted to see if you could explain something that I think you and Cody brainstormed in our Menti group. It's basically packaging the upgrade at a $1,900 price point by adding the shears and not swapping out the cleaver and bread knife. So I don't know if I think it was you, Jason, and Cody that brainstormed that, but it's helped me sell way more CPO and upgrades now that I've been doing that.
Yeah. So yeah, with the ultimate upgrade, it's a 1964 price point. You position that off the ultimate with steak knives because that's the complete set, right? Like ultimate's not complete without the steak knives. So that's the complete set. You put the cutting boards in there, sharpener, scissors. Now, Anthony, what Cody talks about a lot with like the cleaver and the bread knife is it's the idea that you don't need to like do a full commercial on every single knife that comes in an upgrade. I'll be honest, I don't really do a cleaver too often in my upgrade. And you guys are in Texas, you should always be doing a cleaver in your upgrade. So yeah, I don't do exactly what Cody does in that regard, but the idea that they're talking about there, Anthony, is that like not everything in the upgrade needs like the full 1 minute long names and uses. Like get them on a couple pieces in the beginning that are simple, get an emotional reaction, and then run with that emotion and then finish on 2 pieces that like you crush. So I always finish on the barbecue brisket knife, the Santoku carver, and I always finish on the Santoku trimmer. And I use the explanation for the Santoku trimmer as to why it makes sense to get the entire upgrade. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, one thing I know our team doesn't do, like add in the shears, that adds like 75 points, and like nobody ever says anything about it. It was crazy. Like I thought people would be like, oh, I already have that. And it's like, yeah, you just get a second pair. And it literally adds 75 CPO, and then basically not customizing to make it faster. That's something we learned. And like, you know, not taking out the 2 big knives that have a lot of CPO, but, you know, keeping those in so we all get more CPO. It's the goal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Money. Well, dude, there was so much good stuff in there. There was so much good content in there. I love just the emotional leveraging, and that is like the whole point about not everything a customer says warning a response. That's a next level thing. Like, it's so easy as salespeople to feel like we're supposed to have an answer to everything. And sometimes it's easy to not appreciate that even the process of answering and acknowledging it, it's just like observing, you know, even just observing it changes it, and acknowledging it changes the response, and it sort of feeds that insecurity. That's money, dude. That's awesome. That was a great talk. And I have no doubt we'll have you on here in another year giving a 30-minute talk, like just pulling that thought out, because that's some next level stuff. Well, man, Jess, we appreciate it, man. I haven't had a chance to personally for my path to cross with yours as much as I'd like, but I can't wait to see that change in the future as we get live again with net meetings and conferences and things like that. Please let us know how our team can serve and support you and your community and your tribe. And we'll make sure we get you a copy of this recording so that way you can share it with other people if you choose to.
I appreciate it so much, guys. Thanks for having me on.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again, sir. Well, guys, what a great talk. And just, I love getting a chance to kind of mastermind with the entire nation. And that's what's so cool. You know, we never want to be complacent. We could just have you guys spit fire in our meeting every single week, and it would be well worth it. And there'd be amazing stuff that would come from it. But at the same time, getting a chance just to hear nuggets from everywhere, that's what makes it better for all of us. And I love it when it's people that are just not on my radar. And that's just my own limited experience in the field compared to a lot of y'all. That's a really cool thing to see and hear.